You know what happens when stress hits you? You start reacting. Someone says something small and you explode. Something doesn't go your way and your whole energy shifts. You start living on autopilot, reacting to every noise, every demand, every piece of bad news that enters your world. You wake up already anxious, already behind, already chasing something that you can't even name anymore. That's what stress does. It takes control of your emotional steering wheel. It decides how you feel, how you think, how you act. But let me tell you something, you are not here to live in reaction. You're here to live with intention. You see, life will always throw problems at you. That's not going to stop. There will always be deadlines, arguments, disappointments, unexpected bills, or moments when your plans fall apart. But the difference between people who get crushed by stress and those who rise through it isn't the amount of pressure, it's how they respond. When you live in reaction, stress owns you. When you live with intention, you own stress. Most people don't realize this. Stress isn't the enemy, it's a signal. It's a message telling you that something inside you needs your attention. Maybe you've been ignoring your body, your rest, your boundaries, your purpose. Maybe you've been chasing things that don't truly fulfill you, and your spirit is exhausted from the inside out. When you learn to pause before reacting, when you step back and observe instead of being swept away, that's when you begin to shift from reaction to intention. Think about it. How often do you stop and breathe when you feel overwhelmed? Most of the time you don't. You move faster, talk faster, think faster. You're trying to outrun your stress, and all you do is feed it more energy. But what if instead of speeding up, you slowed down for a moment? What if instead of reacting to what's happening, you asked yourself, what's the meaning I'm giving this? Because it's not the event that destroys you. It's the meaning you attach to it. Let's say you get bad news at work. You immediately go into panic mode. You start thinking about what could go wrong, how this will affect your future, how people will judge you. That's reaction, but intention sounds different. Intention says, okay, this isn't what I wanted, but what can I control right now? What can I learn? How can I respond in a way that strengthens me instead of weakens me? That's a completely different emotional pattern. And here's what's wild. The moment you start asking better questions, your brain shifts. It's like rewiring your mental state on the spot. Instead of drowning in what's wrong, you begin searching for what's possible. You move from chaos to clarity, from anxiety to power. The quality of your life is the quality of the meaning you attach to your experiences. Change the meaning, and stress becomes energy you can use. You can't eliminate stress completely, but you can train yourself to use it as fuel. When you're intentional, you stop letting emotions dictate your actions. You decide how you're going to show up. You decide what energy you bring into the room. You decide what story you tell yourself. That's where real freedom begins. When your internal world no longer depends on what's happening externally. Think about athletes before a big game. They feel pressure too. Their heart races, adrenaline kicks in, their mind is loud. But they don't call it stress, they call it focus. They've trained their minds to turn that same chemical rush into fuel for performance. You can do the same thing. It's not about removing stress, it's about transforming how you interpret it. The problem is most people wait for their external world to change before they allow themselves to feel calm. They think, once I have more money, once I get that promotion, once my relationship is fixed, then I'll finally feel peace. But that's not peace. That's postponing peace. True calm comes when you decide to control your internal state regardless of what's happening outside. That's intention. Let's go deeper. When you live in reaction, you're operating from survival. You're ruled by fear. Your body releases cortisol. Your brain narrows its focus to the threat. And suddenly you're not thinking clearly anymore. You start catastrophizing. You start imagining the worst. You become a prisoner of your emotions. But when you live intentionally, you shift from survival to creation. You're no longer driven by fear, you're guided by clarity. You start asking, what's the best outcome I can create here? You start breathing differently, thinking differently, acting differently. You have to make a decision to stop letting your emotions be the boss of you. That doesn't mean suppressing how you feel, it means mastering it. Feel the emotion, acknowledge it, but don't let it drive the car. When something stresses you out, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Every stressful moment carries a lesson, and that lesson is almost always about your own power. When you become intentional, you stop feeding energy to what drains you. You stop saying yes to things that don't align with your values. You stop trying to please everyone at the cost of your own peace. You start choosing what deserves your attention and what doesn't. That's what living intentionally means. It's choosing your focus deliberately instead of letting the world choose it for you. Let me give you a truth that will change how you see stress forever. Stress doesn't come from the event, it comes from your perception of the event. You can have two people go through the exact same situation. One falls apart, the other grows stronger. Why? Because one person reacts, the other responds intentionally. The first asks, why me? The second asks, what now? It's not that intentional people don't feel stress. They do, but they don't let it linger. They don't nurture it. They don't feed it with fear-based thoughts. They process it and use it to sharpen their focus. Every time they face stress, they build emotional muscle. That's what resilience really is, emotional fitness. Can't build emotional strength without resistance, just like you can't build physical strength without lifting something heavy. Stress is the weight you're supposed to lift. If you're overwhelmed right now, I want you to realize something. The world isn't going to slow down for you. Life won't pause until you feel ready. You have to create calm in the chaos. You have to train your mind to find center even when everything feels out of control. And that starts with awareness. The next time you feel that tightness in your chest, that racing mind, that feeling like you're losing grip, stop, breathe. Don't run from it. Don't distract yourself. Ask yourself, what am I focusing on right now? What story am I telling myself? Because if your story is, I can't handle this, your body will follow that command. But if your story is, I can handle this and I'll grow through it, your entire physiology will change. When you choose intention, you take back your power. You begin to realize that stress doesn't define your reality. Your interpretation does. You can be standing in the same storm, but your mindset determines whether you drown in it or dance in the rain. Every stressful situation is an invitation to return to presence. To remind yourself that you are not your thoughts, you are not your emotions, you are the awareness behind them. And listen, this isn't about perfection. You're going to slip, you're going to overreact sometimes, you're going to let emotions get the best of you. That's okay. The goal isn't to eliminate the reaction, it's to shorten the recovery time. To recognize faster when you've lost control and come back to center. The more you practice that, the stronger your emotional discipline becomes. Your power lies in the pause, that tiny space between what happens and how you respond. Most people live their whole lives reacting in that gap without ever realizing they have a choice. But that's where your freedom is built. That's where you reclaim control of your life. The moment you decide to pause, to breathe, to choose your response consciously, that's the moment you start mastering your mind. When you live intentionally, you become grounded. The chaos outside may be loud, but inside you're unshakable. You stop waiting for the world to calm down before you do. You become the calm in the storm. You start leading your emotions instead of following them. You start showing up with strength instead of stress. So, when life overwhelms you, when everything feels like too much, remind yourself of this: you are not powerless. You are not broken. You are simply being called to rise above reaction and step into intention. That's where your peace lies. That's where your power begins. And that's where you'll find the version of yourself who doesn't just survive stress, but transforms it into unstoppable strength. You know what stress really does to most people? It steals their emotional control. It makes them feel like passengers in their own lives. You've been there. Those moments when your heart's racing, your thoughts are all over the place, and you can't seem to catch a break. You try to calm down, but your emotions are already running the show. You say things you don't mean, you make decisions you regret, and afterward you sit there wondering, why did I let that get to me? That's what happens when emotions take control. Your power slips away quietly, moment by moment. But here's the truth. Emotions aren't the enemy. They're energy. They're communication from your mind and body. The problem is, most people never learn how to understand that language. They let emotions control them instead of mastering the art of using emotion intentionally. Stress, fear, frustration, anger. These aren't random feelings. They're signals. They're your internal GPS trying to point you towards something that needs attention, something that's out of alignment. The key isn't to shut them down. It's to reclaim control over them so they serve you instead of sabotage you. When you're in control of your emotions, you become untouchable. It doesn't mean you never feel upset. It means you decide how long you stay there. You decide how much power that emotion gets. You decide whether it fuels you or drains you. That's real strength. Because emotional control isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about directing them towards something useful. You can't control every event in your life, but you control your interpretation of it. You can't stop people from being rude. You can't stop challenges from coming, but you can always control your response. That's emotional mastery. And the truth is, most people never experience it because they're addicted to reaction. They live in a constant loop of reacting to the world instead of creating their state from within. Imagine this: you wake up, check your phone, see a message that annoys you, instantly your mood drops. Then you're rushing to work, someone cuts you off in traffic, and now you're fuming. You get to work, someone criticizes your idea, and that anger builds even more. By noon, you're exhausted, not because of what happened, but because you've handed your emotional control to every situation and every person you encountered. You're running on emotional autopilot. And the worst part, you think it's normal. But what if you decided that no one gets to control your internal state? What if you decided that nothing outside of you is allowed to dictate how you feel inside? That's the shift. When you reclaim emotional control, you stop living like a leaf in the wind and start living like the wind itself. You become grounded, deliberate, unshakable. When you feel stress rising, most people's instinct is to fight or flee. But both of those reactions feed the chaos. The first step to reclaiming control is awareness. Catch yourself in the moment when you're about to react. Notice the trigger, the thought, the tone, the situation. Then pause, take one deep breath and remind yourself, I am not this emotion. I am the observer of this emotion. That 1 second of awareness is all it takes to interrupt the pattern, because the truth is, you can't manage what you don't notice. Awareness gives you the power to choose differently. Think of emotional control like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. At first, it's hard. You'll slip, you'll react, you'll fall back into old patterns. But if you stay conscious, if you commit to mastering your state, it becomes natural. You start to catch the emotion before it catches you. You start to decide your emotional tone before the world does. And when that happens, everything in your life begins to change. Your relationships, your focus, your confidence, your sense of peace. Let me tell you something. People who control their emotions control their outcomes. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you let emotions run wild, you'll destroy your own progress. How many times have you known exactly what to do, but didn't do it because you were tired, scared, angry, or discouraged? You didn't lack knowledge, you lacked state control. Your emotion overpowered your logic, and that's the trap, because emotion, not logic, drives behavior. If you want to change your results, you must first change your emotional state. The beautiful thing is that emotion is energy in motion. That means you can change it instantly through movement, focus, and language. You can shift your physiology, stand up, move your body, change your breathing, shake off that tension. You can change your focus, stop obsessing over what's wrong and start asking, what can I do right now? And you can change your language, stop saying, I'm stressed, and instead say, I'm challenged and I can handle this. That's how you take control. Your body, your focus, and your words are the levers that move your emotions. Have you ever noticed how the same situation can make one person crumble and another person come alive? It's not luck, it's emotional discipline. When something goes wrong, emotionally weak people spiral. Emotionally strong people recalibrate. They feel the pain, they acknowledge it, and then they channel it into progress. They know that emotions are meant to move through you, not live inside you. They process and release. That's the difference between carrying stress and transforming it. Sometimes reclaiming emotional control means walking away from things that no longer deserve your energy. It means setting boundaries. It means not letting someone's bad day become your bad day. Because if you absorb every emotion around you, you'll never have room for your own peace. You have to protect your emotional space like your life depends on it, because it does. Your emotional energy is your fuel. When you let everyone and everything drain it, you have nothing left to create, to love, to lead, to grow. But let's be honest, emotional control doesn't mean you'll never feel overwhelmed again. It means when you do, you know exactly how to handle it. You don't panic. You don't spiral. You don't drown in the feeling. You face it head on. You acknowledge it. You breathe through it, and you decide how to respond. You become the calm in the middle of the chaos. The world rewards emotional stability. People trust those who stay composed under pressure. Opportunities open for those who remain level-headed when everyone else is falling apart. When you can manage your emotions, you can lead others, because leadership begins with self-leadership. And leadership isn't just about teams or business. It's about leading your own life. It's about being the kind of person who can say, no matter what happens, I'll decide what this means and how I'll respond. But one of the greatest acts of strength is refusing to be emotionally manipulated by circumstances, by fear, by other people's opinions. You start being reactive and start being proactive. You stop allowing every external thing to dictate your peace. You become someone who can walk through chaos and still radiate certainty. That doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It comes from knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. And here's something powerful. Emotions lose their control the moment you stop resisting them. When you fight against how you feel, you feed it. But when you sit with it, breathe through it, and allow it to move, you dissolve its power. Acceptance doesn't mean surrender into weakness. It means acknowledging the emotion fully so you can direct it consciously. When you're angry, instead of exploding, use that energy to create change. When you're afraid, use that fear as a signal that you're stretching beyond your comfort zone. When you're anxious, use that awareness to prepare and plan. That's what emotional intelligence is, transforming raw emotion into strategic energy. Every emotion you feel can serve you if you decide what it means. You want to know the difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who rise. It's emotional control. Life doesn't get easier, you get stronger. The people who thrive aren't the ones who never feel fear or stress. They're the ones who master it. They turn stress into focus, fear into courage, frustration into fuel. They understand that emotion is just energy, and energy can be redirected. If you can learn to stay emotionally centered, nothing can truly shake you. You'll start to see every challenge as an opportunity to practice control. Every stressful moment becomes training for your emotional fitness. You stop avoiding discomfort because you realize that discomfort is the gym where emotional strength is built. And here's the secret. Your emotions obey the rules you set. If you decide that no external event can take away your peace, your emotions will follow that command. If you decide that stress will serve as a reminder to slow down and focus, your emotions will align. You become the master. You are in charge of how you feel. You are in charge of how you respond. And when you take that control back, you take your life back. So when stress hits, when pressure builds, When emotions rise like a storm inside you, don't run from it, don't fight it, stand firm and remind yourself, I am not my emotions. I use them, I direct them, I own them. Because the moment you reclaim emotional control is the moment stress stops running your life and you start running your life again. We live in a world where pressure never stops. It's everywhere. Expectations, deadlines, goals, responsibilities, they're coming at you nonstop. And for most people, that pressure feels like a weight crushing them, slowly draining the joy and freedom out of their lives. They wake up already tense, already behind, already overwhelmed. But let me tell you something powerful. Pressure isn't the enemy. Pressure is the birthplace of greatness if you learn how to use it. The difference between being crushed by pressure and being shaped by it lies in your mindset. You can either let it break you or you can let it build you. When you look at anyone who's achieved something extraordinary, you'll find that pressure was part of their story. The athlete standing on the podium, the entrepreneur who built from nothing, the parent who held a family together through chaos, they all faced pressure, but they didn't just survive it, they harnessed it. They took what could have been pain and turned it into power. And that shift doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you decide that every ounce of pressure in your life will serve a purpose. See, pressure reveals who you are at your core. It strips away comfort, excuses, and illusion. When everything feels heavy, when you're tired, when nothing seems to be going your way, that's when your true strength gets tested. But here's the truth. That's also when your potential starts to wake up. Because comfort never creates growth. Pressure does. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Muscles grow through resistance. Character is forged through challenge, and you are no different. But here's what most people do. They resist pressure. They run from it. They call it stress. They call it burnout. They call it too much. And yes, pressure can destroy you if you don't handle it the right way. But when you shift your relationship with it, when you stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, everything changes. You begin to realize that life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you. That pressure you feel isn't there to break you. It's there to introduce you to the strongest version of yourself. When you're under pressure, your mind has two voices. One tells you it's too much, that you can't do it, that you should back off. The other whispers, this is your moment. This is where you grow. And the voice you feed becomes your reality. If you give in to fear, pressure will crush you. If you feed your faith, pressure will craft you. It's not about ignoring the stress or pretending it's easy. It's about deciding what meaning you attach to that pressure, because meaning creates emotion, and emotion drives action. Let me make this real for you. Imagine a weightlifter in the gym. The more pressure they put on those muscles, the more resistance they face, the stronger they become. But if they walk away every time the weight feels heavy, they never grow. That's life. Pressure is the gym for your character, your focus, your resilience. Every challenge, every responsibility, every test, it's all training. The stronger you get, the more weight you can carry. And the more weight you can carry, the greater the impact you can make. But here's the secret. The goal isn't to escape pressure. It's to upgrade your capacity for it. Because the higher you go in life, the more pressure you'll face. The only way to handle more is to become more. You've got to build a stronger nervous system, a calmer mind, a deeper belief. You've got to train your focus to stay clear under tension. That's what separates the average from the unstoppable. It's not that one feels less pressure, it's that one uses it differently. There's a reason some people thrive in chaos while others break down. It's not luck, it's conditioning. They've trained themselves to see pressure as a signal to rise, not retreat. When they feel that intensity, they don't say, this is too much. They say, this is the moment I was built for. They use pressure as proof that they're growing, that they're in the arena, that they're doing something that matters. That mindset shift alone can transform how you experience your entire life. When you're feeling overwhelmed, I want you to ask yourself, what is this pressure trying to teach me? Maybe it's showing you that you've outgrown your old habits. Maybe it's reminding you to slow down and refocus. Maybe it's building your patience, your discipline, your endurance. There's always a lesson inside pressure if you're willing to look for it. Every tough situation is an invitation to expand who you are. Pressure doesn't have to shrink you, it can expand you. But that expansion requires perspective. You've got to stop framing pressure as pain and start framing it as progress. Think about it. What if the pressure you're under right now is the very thing preparing you for what you've been asking for? What if the challenge in front of you is actually the answer to your prayer for growth? You can't step into the next level of your life without the strength to handle it. And the only way to build that strength is through pressure. You see, your brain is wired to avoid discomfort, but your destiny requires it. Growth lives in the tension between what's comfortable and what's necessary. That's why so many people stay stuck. They want the dream, but not the pressure that comes with it. They want the outcome, but not the stretch. But life doesn't work like that. You can't expand without pressure. You can't evolve without resistance. The moment you stop running from pressure and start leaning into it, you begin to transform. Because now you're not reacting, you're responding with intention. You're using the energy of pressure to move forward instead of pulling back. You're no longer the victim of stress, you're the sculptor shaping it into strength. You start asking questions like, how can I grow from this? What is this preparing me for? And the answers you find begin to reshape your entire identity. Here's what I know. When you stop seeing pressure as something that's happening to you and start seeing it as something happening through you, it becomes fuel. It lights a fire in you. It activates parts of your mind and heart that you didn't even know existed. It forces you to dig deeper, to discover strength, creativity, and resilience that you couldn't access when life was easy. Easy doesn't change you. Pressure does. When things get hard, that's not a sign to quit. That's your training ground. That's the moment life is asking you, do you really want it? Because anybody can talk about wanting success when things are smooth. But when everything starts shaking, when it feels like the walls are closing in, that's when character is tested. That's when the real decision is made. Will you let pressure define you, or will you define pressure? Let's get real. Some of the most beautiful breakthroughs in your life will come from your hardest seasons. The pressure that made you cry, doubt, or break down will later become the story of your transformation. The same heat that melts some people hardens others into steel, and you get to decide which one you'll be. When you face pressure, don't just ask, how do I survive this? Ask, how do I grow from this? Don't just endure it, extract power from it. Use it to sharpen your mind, to strengthen your faith, to deepen your gratitude. Let pressure make you more focused, more grounded, more alive. Because when you start turning pressure into purpose, stress loses its grip on you. You stop waiting for the world to calm down and start realizing that you're the one who brings calm into the world. And that's what true mastery looks like. Not a life without pressure, but a life where pressure fuels your greatness instead of crushing your spirit. Every day becomes a training session in strength, resilience, and clarity. You stop fearing challenge because you've learned that every bit of pressure is proof you're on the path of growth. You start to welcome it, not because you love the pain, but because you love who you become through it. You've got to remember, pressure isn't permanent, it's a phase. But who you become while facing it, that's what lasts forever. The strength you build, the courage you find, the belief you reinforce, those things stay with you long after the situation passes. So the next time you feel that pressure building inside, don't run from it. Smile at it. Recognize it for what it is. A sign that you're alive, that you're growing, that life is stretching you into your next level. You don't have to fear pressure. You just have to understand it. You just have to learn how to breathe through it, how to channel it, how to make it serve you. Because once you do, you'll realize that every ounce of pressure that once felt unbearable was actually shaping you into something unstoppable. So when life feels heavy, when everything seems too much, remind yourself, pressure doesn't destroy diamonds, it creates them. The same force that feels like it's breaking you right now might just be molding you into the strongest version of yourself. All you have to do is hold on, lean in, and remember you were built to handle this.